I want to welcome everybody to the webinar, Your Powerful Profile. This is the second in a series of 3 webinars that we're doing on LinkedIn. And I want to thank your Alumni Association Board of Directors, and in particular the Career Committee, who has a theme for this year and next year called Owning Your Career. We did a kickoff in September. And then our next offering is these 3 LinkedIn webinars and workshops. And the third webinar will be in 2 weeks. And then we already have another webinar planned for January. So you'll be hearing more about that as we get closer to that. Folks are still coming in. Just want to welcome everyone. And it's up to you whether you're muted or unmuted. If you are unmuted, just if you notice that you have background noise, then I would ask that you mute yourself, and then when you want to say something, you can unmute. All right, let's see if there's any other preliminaries. I don't think so. Let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to share my desktop with you. Just a moment. Okay, here we go from current slide. All right. So as I said, this is the second of 3 webinars on LinkedIn. And last time we talked about what LinkedIn is and why it's important. Talked about connections, LinkedIn groups, and we talked about how to do some searches on LinkedIn. We didn't finish the searches. And we didn't talk about how to request a conversation. Originally, I was going to include that at the beginning of this webinar, but we have so much to cover in terms of the profile. What I'm going to do is just record a little mini session to cover what we didn't finish in part 1, as well as talk about tabs. And I will send all of you a link to that. That'll probably be like 5-10 minutes or so. Knowing me, it might be 15. But anyway, so that we can focus today on your profile. And that's what we are here to talk about. So we want to first get in the right mindset about your LinkedIn profile before we start working on it. So you want to think of it, this is your online reputation, or your digital introduction, okay? So LinkedIn, it's a professional social media networking site. It may well be somebody's first impression of you, because if someone Googles your name, most likely, if not the first thing, one of the first things that will show up is a link to your LinkedIn profile, or a link to LinkedIn profiles of people with your name, okay? So, and you have total control over what shows up in your profile. So you have a lot of control over what people can learn about you online. Your LinkedIn profile is your personal, professional brand. All right, all you folks, your marketing folks out there, what do I mean by that? This idea of your LinkedIn profile is your brand. Let's go ahead and unmute yourself and tell us what we mean by that.
Hi, this is Mike. My brand is how I present myself professionally and how others on LinkedIn who may be searching for something that I provide, how they may look at me as a trusted advisor or someone who can help them in a decision.
Okay, so there's lots of articles and webinars and things about brand and branding. So it's not a company brand we're talking about, it's your own brand, and it's how you want the world to know, what do you want the world to know about you as a professional? Now, I've talked with some people and they said, oh, in the old days, we used to call that your reputation. Yeah, it's the same thing. What do you want to be known for? What makes you distinctive? What sets you apart from other people in your field or other people with similar backgrounds? And one of the things that's really important about your LinkedIn profile is it's telling a story. And part of that story is what got you where you are. But equally important is where are you going? So it's really important we're going to talk about knowing what your goal is for your profile, what your future forward is, or another phrase I've heard used is your current future. So it's not just about where you've been or where you are, but it's also about where you're going, and being able to communicate that. And it needs to be keyword rich. So this concept of keywords is something that you may or may not have heard a lot about. I'm actually getting ready to write an article that'll show up in an upcoming alumni e-newsletter. What do we mean by keywords? How do we figure out what they are? And then where do we put them? Well, one place to put them is in your profile. But just a 1 or 2 sentence on keywords. So if you were a recruiter and you were searching for somebody with your qualifications, what would be the words or phrases that recruiter would use in hope that they would find you? Those are the key words for your profession. So your LinkedIn profile is much more than just a repeat of your resume. Your profile allows you to go into a lot more depth, to elaborate, much more so than a resume. You can go deeper with things like volunteer experiences, projects you worked on, so on and so forth. You can share images like documents and videos. It also allows some of your personality to come through. And we'll talk about recommendations. That's something you don't have in a resume, okay? Other people writing about you. I am hearing someone typing, so if you are currently typing, that's fine, but please mute yourself. And then LinkedIn is more than just your profile. It's an opportunity to network, to find and be found, to interact with other professionals. And we talked some about that last time. We'll talk about that some more in our next webinar. Okay, so here's some things you want to think about before you really jump into either creating or updating your profile. And the first question is, what is your goal at this stage of your career for your LinkedIn profile? Okay, I'm still hearing someone typing. If you are typing, please mute yourself. If otherwise, I'll need to mute everybody. Okay, I'm going to have to go ahead and mute everyone. Let's see how I do that. Okay, well now I'm not hearing the typing. Okay, so what is your goal at this stage of your career for your LinkedIn profile? So for instance, maybe your goal is at this point to manage that reputation, that professional identity, okay? Maybe your goal, you're looking for a job. You're currently working but want to get a job somewhere else. You're currently not working and you're looking for employment. Your goal might be to position yourself as a thought leader or an expert in your field, however you define your field. Maybe your goal at this stage is to do some career research. You're considering some different options, either immediately or long-term. And so your goal is to find people that you can talk to explore some of those career options. Or maybe your goal, you've got a business. Or you're in a marketing or selling position within an organization, and your goal is much more about promoting a particular product or service. So it's really important for you to be able to answer this question: what is your goal? Now, having answered that, you should be able to answer this question: who's your current audience? Is your audience recruiters and prospective hiring managers? Is your audience prospective buyers? Is your audience other professionals in your field, or some other audience? Because as those of you who studied communication and marketing know, you can't craft your message till you know who you're writing the message to. And then lastly, how do you want to be perceived? And my suggestion here would be to maybe just jot down 3 adjectives, okay? That you want, this is how you want to be perceived by others as a professional. And then 10 to 15 keywords that you're going to use throughout your profile. You're going to use them, some of them in the about section, some of them in your headlines, some in your experience, some in your education, some in your volunteer work, and then in the skills section as well. So these are really, really important questions. And if any of you need assistance or need a sounding board, even to answer these questions, that's what I'm here for. Give me a call, shoot me an email. We'll set up a meeting here. We'll set up a virtual meeting. We'll set up a phone call, and we can talk through these things. All right. So let's go to LinkedIn now. End the show. All right. Oh, you want to see my calendar, don't you? Okay. Hey, there's an alum, Gary Jonas. Okay. So, couple things that we're going to start with. Let's go to my profile. You'll notice up here my LinkedIn URL is very clean, okay? It just has my name. I'm fortunate enough to have an unusual enough name that there's only, I think, 5 or 6 Deborah Frankies on all of LinkedIn, that I can just use my name and my URL. My guess is a lot of you have a bunch of letters and numbers at the end of your URL. So here's how to clean that up. You're going to go to the mini-me, click on View Profile, and then over on the right here, Edit Public Profile and URL. I'm going to click on that. And then this little pencil here, okay, edit your custom URL. And what you'll see is you can't change the first part, but what you can do is change this part. And has between 3 and 100 letters. I would not use 100. Who's going to type all that in? Okay. Do not use spaces, symbols, or special characters, but you can use dashes. You can use an underscore. So if there was another Deborah Frankie, I could use Deborah dash Frankie or Deborah underscore Frankie. Okay. Or D Frankie. So LinkedIn will not let you save it if someone else already has that URL, because it has to be unique to you. So those of you, maybe some of you right now are in your profile and making this change. Others of you recognize you need to make the change. If possible, try not to use a company name here, because what happens when you change jobs and you go to another company, okay? Try to avoid using a number, you know, Deborah Frankie 49. Does that mean there's 48 other Deborah Frankies and they're more important than me? Okay. Once you customize this, okay, now I'm going to cancel. I'm not going to save it because it's already customized, okay? You can now use this URL in your email signature, on your resume, up in the contact information, on your business card, okay? And you can let people know by doing that, hey, if you go to my LinkedIn profile, you're going to learn some things about me. All right, any questions on that? Silence is agreement. Okay. A quick comment on contact information. So if you go to someone else's profile, okay, if someone's a first level connection with you and you click contact info, you will get their email, unless they've changed their settings to where you can't do that. But if they're a second or third or 10th level connection, if you don't know what that means, watch the webinar for part 1 and we explain all that. A second level, if I click contact info, I don't see the email. So you need to decide whether you want to do this or not, but a suggestion that I have is, for instance, in my about section, at the very end, I have my email address. Some people even put it up in their headline here, this here. I don't recommend that, but you could do that. And some people will put it at the very beginning of their about section. Why? Because when you look at a profile, you only see the first 3 lines of the about section. So particularly those of you who are looking for a job, if someone finds you, finds your profile, reads it, you want to make it as easy as possible for them to get in touch with you, right? And again, if they're not a first level connection with you already, they're not going to have access to your email address. Now, some folks will include their email till they land that job, and then they'll remove it after that. You have that option. For me, LinkedIn is about finding and being found. So I want to make it easy if people find me for them to reach out to me. Any questions on that? Okay. Now, when you look at someone's LinkedIn profile, okay, what do you notice? What do you see right away? What stands out for you?
Picture.
The picture. Okay. So that photo is really, really important. Okay. Just a couple comments on the photo. I'm sure if you've perused LinkedIn at all, you've seen some photos on LinkedIn that make your eyes bug out and you're like, really? Don't you know this is a professional networking site? So you want it to be a headshot. You want it to be professional, personable, a plain and simple background. This, believe it or not, it's a photo of me with someone else and with a busy background, but I use paint to crop it and then clean up the background. And voila, now I have a headshot, okay? It should represent you in the best light, literally and figurative. I mean, yes, figuratively and literally, okay? So you don't want it so dark people can't see you. In general, looking straight at the camera, okay? Simple, plain background, dressed professionally. Now mine's cropped very tightly. Some people wouldn't crop theirs that tightly, but nothing where you're showing way down to the elbows or a full body shot or whatever. Typically, you're going to crop at the shoulder or above, okay? You don't have to pay a professional to get a good photograph, but it needs to look professional. Okay, what else do you notice when you look at someone's profile?
The background behind your photo?
All right, this bit here, it's called the background, okay? I do not know why LinkedIn gives so much real estate to this background, but they do. And until that changes, you might as well take advantage of that, okay? Many of you have LinkedIn's default, which is just a blue background with some lines, kind of the image of a network, whatever, okay? So this background can be whatever you want. Once you upload it, you can crop it and move it around a bit. Obviously, in my case, I'm all about career, so that's why I chose this image. Let me just show you one more background that I came across just the other day. Just as an example, here's Brian Kennedy. He's an alum, okay? And he's a technology executive, consultant, entrepreneur. What does this background tell you about Brian?
Well, it doesn't look like it's him in the background photo, just judging by the hair.
Right. Okay. Do you think it's appropriate given what he's told us about himself here?
Yes.
Okay. Why is it appropriate?
Technology inclined.
Okay. Kind of a planner, the big thinker, right? Okay. So, you know, the older picture is worth 1,000 words, okay? In a little bit, I'll show you an about section from a public health alumna, and you'll see her background and how that is relevant to her profession. Some people will have just a pretty serene picture because they're about serenity, okay? Or a skyline, or something that's more related to their career. So, you know, don't stress out over it, but please put something up there other than LinkedIn's default. Okay, now we're going to start with basics like your name. You would think, really, you need to say anything about that? Well, yes, I've seen them where it wasn't capitalized. I've seen them where the first name was last and the last name was first. Oh, yes, I have. And particularly for women, I see name confusion. So it's Susan Smith-Jones on LinkedIn, but it's Susan Smith no-Jones in her email signature. And it's Susan Jones in other situations. So the key thing here is be consistent, all right? If everyone knows you as Bob, then be Bob, okay? Don't be Robert. What if some people know you as Robert and some know you as Bob? Well, then you have something, if you go to your profile, you'll have all these edit symbols. And right here where it says, where does it say? Add former name, okay? So let's say a lot of people know me as Deborah, but some people know me as, oh, I don't know, Kiki, right? Because I have that nickname. I could put that in there, and on my LinkedIn profile, it would say Deborah, and then in parentheses, Kiki, Frankie. So someone searching for Deborah Frankie would find me, and someone searching for Kiki Frankie would find me. This is also where you can, women, you can put maiden names, okay? So anyone searching for Deborah Frankie would find me. Anyone searching for Deborah Tro, which is my maiden name, would also find me. And that will show up, so you can actually see it back here. It's showing Deborah Tro in parentheses. See how that is? I'll go ahead and save it so you can see it. There we go, it's down here. Save, okay? So that's how it's gonna show up. But if they search for Deborah Tro or Deborah Frankie, they will find me. So you can take advantage of that if you have a nickname, like we have a Penelope here on campus. Everyone knows her as Penny. So she's got Penelope Penny Grobe on her profile. All right. What else do you notice when you look at a profile is this here. This is called your headline, what appears directly below your name. Who can tell me what LinkedIn's default is? If you don't put anything in here yourself, what does LinkedIn put in for you?
Your title.
Your title at current company. So current title at current company. Yep, that's LinkedIn's default. When I do this with students, if they don't list anything in their experience section, it's even more exciting. It says student at LaSalle University, okay? So my recommendation is do not just go with LinkedIn's default. If you think of a headline in a newspaper or an online article, what's the purpose of a headline in a newspaper or an online article?
To call people's attention to read it.
All right, exactly. To grab your attention and make you want to read more, right? So that's what your headline should do, is grab people's attention and make them want to read more. You have 120 characters and you can say whatever you want. Now, I have heard that if you change your headline on your iPhone, you have 200 characters. I don't know if that's still the case. It's like a little glitch that LinkedIn hasn't fixed yet. So if you just can't get it down to 120 and you want a few more characters, try, and you have an iPhone. I think it does not the case with Android, but you can check it out. All right. So just as an aside there. So the headline should answer. I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint here.
Deborah?
Yes.
Before you move on from that, I'm wondering if that also impacts search results.
Yes, it might. I don't know offhand. LinkedIn has algorithms, so when someone's doing a search and uses certain keywords, LinkedIn will look in certain sections and weight keywords in certain sections more than other sections. And I do believe the headline is one of the areas that is part of that search algorithm. So important to make that headline keyword rich, okay? So your headline should answer these questions. Who am I? What is it I do in the marketplace? How do I add value? What makes me unique? It's your billboard, right? So when people look at your profile, they're gonna see your background, they're gonna see your picture, and they're gonna see your headline. So take advantage of it. You wanna make it compelling and keyword rich. All right, Deborah, that's great, but I still don't know what to put in my headline. Okay, well, let's look at some examples here. These first two come from a book called LinkedIn Profile Optimization. And there's no one way to write a headline. Okay, let me reinforce that. But the author of that book has sort of these two formulas. So an adjective, a job title, some specialties, and a happy ending, all right? I don't know why the happy ending. I guess she's a happy person. So here's an example. Accomplished sales professional, office supplies, retain and grow accounts, convert to digital, let's connect. Okay. There we go. Another one is what she calls a benefit statement headline. And here, this answers the question, how do I help individuals or businesses? What benefit do others receive? What outcomes do I produce? All right. So here we have insurance broker and agent, giving you peace of mind by protecting your home, car, and assets. That's the benefit statement, right? Is this part here, giving you peace of mind. Sort of a combination of those that I, when I do this presentation with students, I encourage them to think about their headline in this format. So kind of what's your role? What are some areas of specialty? And then what's a benefit statement? So the role is accounting, specialty, financial reports, analyzing data, and then the benefit, ensure accuracy, efficiency, and satisfied clients. So let's look at some examples here, okay? These all follow that sort of combined, that combination formula, right? So public health professional, marketing, registered dietitian, whatever. And then areas of specialty, maternal health, HIV, and then here's the benefit, empowering healthy choices via community-based education, bringing ideas to life, supporting lifelong health, connecting clients to high-quality data, okay? So hopefully this begins to give you some ideas about what you could put in your headline. Now, I love this formula. It's one that I recommend highly without saying yours has to be that. And in fact, mine isn't that way, okay? If you look at my headlines, I have really focused on kind of what I consider my areas of specialty. So my areas of specialty are alumni career program services and resources, alumni student career engagement, and I'm a LinkedIn enthusiast. Now, the nice thing about your headline, you can come and change it anytime, right? It's not locked in stone. So work on it, see what you can come up with, test it out with some people, take a look at headlines of professionals in your field, notice what other people have. Many of them will have LinkedIn's default. So by having something a step above that, even if it's not perfect, okay, a step above the default is going to set you apart from most other people on LinkedIn. Are there any questions about the headline? Okay, I'm going to go back to LinkedIn, our good friend. And we've already talked about the importance of the photo, okay? Let's talk about location right here. So when you set up your profile or when you come in to edit it, okay, you enter a zip code. And LinkedIn is going to give you the choice of that specific zip code, right? So I live in good old Hatfield, Pennsylvania. And it's going to give you the choice of a major metropolitan regional area. My suggestion is to always choose the metropolitan area, not the specific zip code. So even if you're in Philly, you don't want Philadelphia, PA, you want greater Philadelphia area. Occasionally you will see, I think if you leave the zip code out, then you can just put United States. And occasionally I think there probably could be good reason for that. The person literally does not have a single location, okay? Or for some reason they don't want that location known. But in general, choose a metropolitan area. If you are planning to move and you're looking for a job in the new location, you may want to go ahead and put that new location there, even though you haven't moved there yet. Any questions on location? Okay, while we're here, industry. When you first set up your LinkedIn profile, you had to select an industry from LinkedIn's long list here, okay? Oops. Couple comments. One is, your industry used to show up on your profile. It no longer does. When you change jobs, change companies, change roles, change professions, change careers, most people don't remember to go back and think about whether or not they need to change their industry. Industry is important because recruiters will use industry as a filter. Now, if you're an accountant working at Verizon, are you in the accounting industry or are you in the telecommunications or whatever industry? That's a decision you need to make. Some people really struggle because none of the choices really seem to match well, or there's several they'd like to pick, and LinkedIn only gives you one. So take your best shot, okay? Again, it's not even showing up on your profile anymore. But if there's a couple you'd like to have, be sure you're using those same keywords throughout your profile. So a recruiter doing a search will still find you. Any questions on industry? Let me make sure I haven't changed mine. Okay, now we come to, so that's kind of everything up at the top here. Any questions about what shows up in this top box? Oh, by the way, so right here, add profile section, this is where you can come, okay? I think the intro is this top box. We're going to talk about the about section. If you want to add another work experience, education, licenses, volunteer experience, if you want to add skills. Accomplishments is kind of a catch-all category. So let's say you write an article or you're mentioned in an article, you might want to add that publication. You've worked on a particular project at work or in your volunteer work or in your education, and you want to highlight that project, you might want to add that. Clicking on Add Profile section allows you to add sections in your profile. So for instance, if you don't have an About section now, you would come here and click on About, okay, to add it. Now I already have it, so if I want to come edit my About section, I'm going to click this pencil. This used to be called the summary. Now it's called the About section. I'm sure there were many, many meetings at LinkedIn to decide to make that change. But here is where you have the opportunity to share your passions, your motivations, your goals, and what makes you unique. So, and you'll notice when, let me go to someone else's profile. Okay. When someone looks, see, Robin's just got the plain background, right? I mean, the background. She needs to update her background. Okay. When someone looks at your profile, how much of the About section do they see? About 2 1/3, 2 1/4, right? So you want to make this do what?
Make you want to click to read more?
Exactly. I want to read more. I confess, I don't think my About section does that, okay? But I will show you one that I think does do that. But for instance, let's say that you're a recruiter or in talent acquisition. You could start off with, I am a budding talent acquisition specialist with a knack for finding the perfect hires for businesses. All right? So something kind of engaging and catchy. If you're not great at being engaging and catchy, find somebody who is and ask them to help you write it. Okay? How would other people describe you and your work? Ask colleagues, ask friends to describe you. See what words they use, what phrases they use, what things they emphasize. Oh, you're always the person who, or you're the person everybody goes to for. Pay attention to that, okay? All right. And in the About section, you'll notice it's the first person, I, okay, not third person, as a career professional, Deborah Franke is committed to, okay? No personal information like marital status or any of that kind of stuff. However, if there was something in your personal life that has shaped you as a professional, then you may want to include that. So when I was on a trip to China, I became acutely aware of blah, 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 and now moving forward in my career to address that international issue, okay? You have 2,000 characters in the About section. You don't have to use them all. It's about 350 words. And this is really, really crucial for this About section. It should be goal-oriented. Again, it should go back to what's your goal for your profile. And this About section, right, should be very tied to what your goal is and who your audience is. Write to what you want, not to where you've been. It's looking forward, okay? Remember, who is the audience? You're going to write to them. And you can add multimedia, things like slides, documents, video, things like that. Okay, right here you can add it in the About section. You can add it in your experience section. You can add multimedia in your education section as well. All right, I want to show you 2 profiles just to give you an idea of what you can do with that About section. This is Lauren Clay. She's an alumna in public health. She probably doesn't know how many times I have shown off her profile. Her image here, if you were in the field of public health, you would know right away what this is. Okay, it's a map of the US by county. Each color means something, okay? Percentage of adults who watch LinkedIn webinars on a daily basis or something, okay? So here's her About section. I love, let me make it a little bigger. I love public health. Reading about new initiatives, watching documentaries, discussing pressing issues and current events, talking with communities struggling to address a need. I love it all. I journeyed for many years trying to find exactly how I could make a difference in the world. All right. I don't know about you, but I want to read more. Okay, she grabbed me here. All right, and here's the rest of her about section. You can jot her name down and come back and read it if you want to. So a couple things I really like about this. I learned something about her that I would never learn from her resume. She explains how she got to where she is now, and is also talk about the particular areas of research that she has, okay? Right here, she's got a great, look at this. Fortunately, my research project fell apart. So something that would be a crisis was actually instrumental in her discovering where she wanted to make a difference in the world. The one thing I don't like about this one is this first paragraph is too long. People don't read long paragraphs. So I would break this into at least 2, maybe even 3 shorter paragraphs. Is there anything you especially like or dislike about Lauren's about section?
She's very positive.
Yes, yes, very positive. Mm-hmm. You can I just feel this enthusiasm exuding, right, from her profile here.
But it also doesn't seem forced.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And she speaks in the first person, so it's I love public health. I gained appreciation. I journeyed for many years. So
Yep.
she really is telling a story of herself.
Yep. Yep. So for some of you, for whom maybe writing isn't a strength, okay, I'm going to share in a moment some questions that might help you. Maybe what you need to do is speak it. Tell your story, okay, and record that, or have a friend take notes, and then pull from that and begin to write something, okay, if sometimes that intermediate step of actually saying it out loud first. Okay, let me show you another one. Tom Stenstrom. Again, he probably doesn't know how often I've shown off his profile. Again, plain ordinary background, okay? Tom is an alumnus, and here's his about section. As a management professional with extensive experience leading virtual distributed teams and technical development programs, I believe successful ventures maximize the potential of 3 key components: individual performance, organizational structure, and problem solving. Therefore, my efforts focus on 3 priorities. He's got 3 short paragraphs and then a list of competencies, which in his case makes sense because he's in a very technical field. So he's not giving you any history, is he? He's kind of giving you his philosophy behind the work that he does. What drives him? What motivates him? What he focuses on. Very different from Lauren's. But again, right? I'm not going to learn this from a resume. So use that about section to tell me something I don't already know from the rest of the profile. Don't say, you know, in 1922, I graduated with a degree in whatever from LaSalle University, and I've worked at this company and this. I can tell all that by looking elsewhere in the profile. Tell me something I can't learn elsewhere. Okay, so you notice how he uses fairly short paragraphs. Somebody could skim this pretty quickly, okay? Again, the 2 are very different, but I hope begin to show you some of the options that you have for really taking advantage of that about section. All right, so if you're still like totally stuck, these are some questions from the book LinkedIn Profile Optimization. My suggestion, and I will send this to you, so you don't need to jot it down or anything. My suggestion is pick, I would suggest 3, maybe 2, maybe 4, certainly not all of these questions, but pick the ones that you want to address in your about section, and just take some time and reflect, jot some notes down, maybe say it out loud and have somebody else jot the notes down, and then begin to craft your about section. So these questions are just designed to kind of get you thinking, okay? And again, what motivates you? Where are you headed and why? How would others describe you? What makes you distinct? These are all the kinds of things that you can include in your about section. Any questions? And if you're feeling really, really stuck, don't know how to proceed, feel free to contact me and we'll work on it together. All right. So back to LinkedIn. Okay, some other sections. Let me go to my profile. So when you're looking at your own profile, you have this thing called dashboard, okay? Only you see that. And so you can click and see who's viewed your profile, who's viewed your posts, how often, when you've shown up in searches, a few other things that are included there. You're willing to offer career advice, so I have that as yes. And then we get, oh, okay, now let me look at someone. I want somebody who's active. I don't know. Ah, there's Trey Ulrich. Oh my gosh. All right, let's try Kirk here. So when you look at someone, no, it's not going to, all right. All right, rather than taking time, because I thought I'd see it on mine, but I don't. When you look at someone else's profile, you will see their activity section, okay? And these are things like things they posted in groups, or they posted on their homepage, or things other people's posts that they've commented on. To see your own activity, you would go to, where do you go to see your own activity? Your homepage. Okay, who's viewed, page activity, recent visitors. Right, article. Okay, I'm drawing a blank here. If you want to view your own activity. Again, I don't want to take your time.
Deborah, it looks like
Yes.
if you go under the under your profile, you'll see where it has manage posts and activity.
Down here?
Now, if you click your mini me on the options bar up top, and then
Scroll
if you
down.
go down, it'll say manage, yeah, posts and activity.
Here?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's where we can see, yep, so that's, thank you very much. So that's where you can see all your activity, okay? And so here's an example of something that I posted, okay? And I can see that 3 people liked it, nobody commented. Here's, let's see, somewhere I posted, I was doing on the previous webinar and I had several posts. Thank you, okay. So now let's talk about the experience section, okay? So for many of you, this is going to be an employment, okay? It can also include volunteer work that you really want to highlight, so it doesn't just have to be paid employment. With students or people early in their careers, if there was a particular project you worked on that you want to really highlight, you could basically create an experience block to highlight that project. So it might be, for instance, a capstone or a group project, so on and so forth. So we tend to think of the experience section as only paid employment. It doesn't have to be. And so that's really valuable if there's a career gap, if you're returning to the workforce, or again, if you just want to highlight some of your volunteer work, you're a president of such and such association, and some of the skills that you're using or some of the skills or knowledge that you've acquired as a result of that is relevant to who you are as a professional and where you want to be going, okay? What you include here, you know, yes, it could be just a repeat of what's in your resume, but if you can take it one step up from that, that would be great. So one step up would be talking about actual accomplishments, okay? So for instance, I might want to change what I have here, maybe just have that opening, develop, coordinate, promote programs, and then I would list some of the specific programs, okay, that I've developed. or that I've created a database to keep track of recruiters so that as a resource to the alums that I meet with. Or talk about the Job Shadow program and how we took it from a pilot 3 years ago, and now we have over 200 students participating this year. So getting beyond just tasks and responsibilities, just like on a resume, you want to get beyond that. And really, what are some of your key accomplishments for people earlier in their career? If you're listing internships or first jobs, you can talk more about what you learned or what skills and knowledge you developed, or how that position clarified your career aspiration, or how a particular position is relevant to where you want to go, okay? So again, take advantage of this section in the experience, this part of the experience section, and tell us something we're not gonna learn just from the resume. Tell us something else about it, okay? Let me see if I wanna make any other comments. Oh, how far back to go? So for more experienced professionals, okay, and I guess I have to put myself in that category because you can see I started my employment in 1981. Generally, the rule is 10 or 15 years plus or minus 5, and that would be true for resume as well as a LinkedIn profile. However, part of my story, okay, is that I worked as an environmental engineer, actually a wastewater engineer, for 5 years. So how did a wastewater engineer get to be a career counselor? All right, that is part of my story. And so that's why I have made the choice to go all the way back to 1981. But you don't have to go all the way back, okay? Same thing, education section. You'll see in here, I talked about making the switch from biomedical engineering to environmental engineering, and the fact that I did a co-op. Okay, so even this was a long time ago, right? But what did I learn in that co-op to relate to adults as peers and saw how things got done? Okay. In my counseling degree, I just talk about one of my favorite courses that I took. All right. So any questions in terms of the experience section, the education section?
Yes, I have a question. I recently took some courses at Community College of Philadelphia. It was not a degree.
Yep.
And should that be on my profile, or would that be, I don't know, considered not as important?
No, no, it's highly relevant. I call that professional development, okay? And so I would include it, but instead of a degree, you would just have say something like coursework in, okay?
All right.
So you could say project management coursework and then the year or years. And then in the description here, you could say, you know, I took three courses in A, B, and C in order to further develop my skills or to bring me up to date on or whatever. So again, explain why you did it and how it's relevant to who you are as a professional and where you want to go.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on the experience or the education sections?
Hi, Debbie. It's Yvonne. I have a question about the dates for your education.
Yes.
For those of us who are over 50,
Yes.
who are in the workforce, sometimes we're being told not to share those dates.
Yep.
So what are your thoughts on that?
So I would generally agree. Okay. Again, because I've taken my education all the way back, there's no point in, it doesn't really matter whether I include my date here. I mean, yeah, I took my experience all the way back to 1981. Okay. So I could leave it on or off, right? I made that choice again, because it's part of my story.
Okay. Okay.
In some cases, you might show a bachelor's degree with no date, but if you have a master's or an MBA that's say in the last 10 years, you might include that date.
Okay.
Okay. But you can certainly just leave the dates off. Okay. And that I see that frequently. That's perfectly acceptable.
Great. Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions on the experience or education? Okay. There is a volunteer experience section. And so in my case, you'll see I have 2 professional associations, okay? One, I'm currently the technology chair. Yeah, there's a little story on that. But anyway, and then this is my National Professional Association, the Alumni Career Services Network, okay? And I've listed, I probably should say more than I have, but really this being co-chair, okay? Look how much I say in 2 sentences. This role was a highlight of my professional career, okay? I became known as the spreadsheet queen for paying attention to our project timeline and keeping our budget updated. Oops. That tells you a lot about me, doesn't it? Okay? In just 2 sentences. So take advantage of all the sections of your profile, okay? So here, technology, converted a website, I'm researching technology options, okay? I'm gonna run a pilot, okay? I train other people. And all these things are relevant to what I do professionally, who I am, and what makes me distinctive. So take advantage. Don't just list the organization and that you're a member. Tell me what you're learning. How are you involved? How does that help you make connections and build a network? What have you learned from other people in the organization? Non-professional volunteer experience, yes, include it. If maybe it's volunteer at the school on the school play and you help build the set or something like that, okay? You want to ask yourself, what is it about what I did or how I did it that's going to be relevant to where I want to go professionally or what I want to communicate about myself, okay? So it could be that, yes, you helped to build the set. You were the one who went around and talked to everybody and got a list of supplies and made out the supply list and ordered the materials and carefully researched where you could get the best prices on things, okay? Or maybe you were the one who made sure that the students that were helping on building the set were involved and weren't just standing around. So again, think about, so certainly volunteer work, but you need to do the translation. You need to show how it's relevant to who you are as a professional and what you want to communicate. Any questions on volunteer? All right, watching our time here. So skills and endorsements, this section here, very, 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 did I say very? Important, okay? Why? Because recruiters who are searching for candidates, yes, they could put workshop design and as something they're looking for and just a general search. But they actually have this specific field when they're doing a search. So they have that skills section and they're going to put in the specific skills they're looking for. So I believe you can have up to 50 skills. And of course, Deborah here has, oops, I can't add any more. Here we go, show more. I have 50 skills, okay? Now, the next question is, are these the right 50? Well, here's where your keywords comes in. What do you want to be known for? What skills for either your current or future positions are going to be most important? That's what you want to have here. You can decide which 3 show up at the top here, right? I had to click to see all of them. So only 3 show up here. So you'll see only 4 people have endorsed me for workshop design, but I want to feature that as one of my 3 top skills. So you can decide, so to add a new skill, you're just going to click add a new skill. It's not going to let me do it because I've already reached the limit. And then when you go to edit, you can, top skill, yes. So if I wanted to make resume writing a top skill, I could move it up. I would move one of the other ones down and move that up. LinkedIn will group them into industry knowledge, interpersonal, and other skills. You don't have any control over what group they put it in. One of my key suggestions here is when you're looking at profiles of people in your field, go to their skills section, see what skills they've listed, and ask yourself, are any of these skills ones I should add to my profile? If there's any that you don't want to be known for, or they're from a previous phase of your life and career and they're not relevant, take them out. Okay? Any questions on skills? Okay, we got about 4 minutes left here. Recommendations. Recommendations are things that someone who's on LinkedIn has written about you. All right? You can get recommendations from others, and you can give recommendations. If you want to request a recommendation, okay, a couple ways to do that. I would probably email the person and just say, hey, Barbara, would you be open to writing a recommendation on LinkedIn for me? I'm particularly looking for a recommendation to talk about my skills at delivering a workshop. Okay? And so she wrote a recommendation. When someone writes that recommendation for you, you get to see it. You get to decide if it gets posted on your profile. You can edit it, and I have edited them for grammar, spelling, and content. So presumably the people who take the time to write want to be helpful to you. So you be helpful to them and let them know what aspect of what they know about you would be most helpful for them to comment on. But another way to ask for a recommendation is to click here. And then who do you want to ask? Okay, I want to ask Susan McDonald. It has to be a first level connection, right? And then I select the relationship. Okay. I don't know. Worked with us, but at different companies, yep. And in my current position, okay. And then next. Don't use LinkedIn's default, okay? I would type my message to Susan and send it, and then it's up to her. So I always leave people out, you know? If you're too busy or you prefer not to write a recommendation, that's fine. I certainly understand. But some people don't like to write. Some people feel awkward writing about other people and having that posted publicly, et cetera, et cetera. So ideally, one recommendation for each position, each job that you've listed in your experience section. I would say a minimum of 3. I see people who have 30 recommendations. To me, that's overkill. But that's my opinion. Maybe you think 30 is a great number. Question on recommendations. Okay, we got 1 minute. Accomplishments is kind of a catch-all category. And so it's things like publications, all of you out there who have patents. You can list courses. I don't know how much value there is in that. A specific project you want to highlight, honors you've received, okay? Test scores, I guess in some fields that might be important. If you have languages other than English, okay, other than the common language of whatever country you're in, you would list them here. And organization or professional organizations that you're part of, but again, I might put that under volunteer, particularly if you're active. So, for instance, I've listed some publications and highlighted a particular project. And then interests is a bit of a catch-all. If you have more than 6 interests, it's going to click See All here. These are influencers that you're following, which means any posts that they make show up on your homepage. Companies you're following, which means their LinkedIn feed is going to show up in your homepage. All the LinkedIn groups that you're in, and schools that you're following, which means any posts on the school page will show up on your homepage. LinkedIn will automatically put you in companies and schools that you have on your profile in the experience and education sections, but you can add any companies or schools that you want. All right, time's up. I am going to close out our recording, and then I'd be glad to take any questions.